Hello, beautiful people. I'm Chris Maddox, founder of the Wild Woman Project and Wild Woman Fest. And I'm speaking to you today because we always meet like this at new moon time. And the new moon is arrived. It arrives on Wednesday, March 2nd, and it initiates a moon cycle, which will carry us all the way through March. So, in the natural world, what's happening at this new moon, this is our last new moon in the official season of winter for those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, and summer for those of us who are in the southern hemisphere. So, there's this feeling, if we tune into what's going on in the natural world, this kind of in between. The seasons are about to turn, and we might be seeing, sensing in some way signs of that shift, hints of what's to come, but we're not quite there yet. So I want to name that because it seems important to say at this new moon, and particularly with our focus today, that we are, as we approach this moon cycle, standing between seasons, between phases and nature cycles. So, as we have been doing these last many months during our Path of the Poets series, we are going to bring in another wild woman poet today and a poem from her. So, this is a really special occasion because if you identify with the words wild woman or wild woman archetype, then you are in some ways standing on the shoulders of our poet of this cycle, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estés, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype. This masterpiece, published in 1992, it's kind of this epic book where Estes, who is a storyteller, a cantadora, and also a Jungian analyst, names this force, the wild woman archetype, which, she sort of explains belongs to us all, that is found throughout history, throughout culture. And she goes through and tells many, 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 many stories, folk stories, and breaks them down into their symbols and breaks them down into beautiful teachings. And this book is, incredible. We recommend it all the time. It is something we reference a lot. So this poem that we are going to bring to the fore today, which is called The Painted Face of God, was written decades later. So when Women Who Run with the Wolves was published, Dr. E, which is sometimes what she calls herself on social media, Dr. E was about 47, somewhere in there, 47 in her late 40s. So I have no way of knowing this, but if we assume that it took Dr. E 10 years to write this epic, and again, I have no way to know that, but let's just say, then she was writing that from her late 30s into her 40s. This poem that we're going to explore and walk through today on this new moon for some inspiration and guidance was written, on the occasion of her dear friend John O'Donohue's sudden death in his early 50s. So if you're not familiar with John O'Donohue, he's an amazing Celtic mystic, poet, much to explore in terms of his writings and thinking. So she calls him in this poem, which was offered as a blessing after his death, was offered as a blessing to him, calls him Anam Cara. which means soul friend. And so this, I want to say that it does not exist to our knowledge, uh, any written copy of this. This is spoken in an audio collection of John O'Donohue's teachings. It's one of the forewords. And she offers this blessing. And I wanted to bring this to us at this time because what we learn by walking with this poem, by reading this poem, which we will do in just a little bit, is something of Dr. E's theology at this point in her life. So this is like the closest thing I can imagine to sitting around the fire with this extraordinary elder who is a library unto herself and an oracle and a great mystic. And, having her, sitting around the fire with her and having the gift of hearing how she sees reality. So in this poem, there's essentially two parts. There's the first part when she talks about her relationship further back in time when she was younger to death, versus in her 7th decade, as she has gathered more years, how she sees it now. So we get a sense of her perspective, her theology, her understanding of reality, which is, I would assume, if you are really into the wild woman archetype, like we tend to be at the Wild Woman Project, we'd want to like lean in and hear what this wise woman has to say. And so, as with any person, we are not putting her up on this pedestal like everything she's saying is ultimate truth, but rather really thinking of sitting around the fire with her and receiving the gift of her perspective. So to read her writing, we get to look through her eyes, and that's all of her writing. But this one is a blessing poem. And, I like it also because we've been exploring this thing of poetry, and this is a functional poetry. It is a poem that is offered as a blessing. It is inherently useful, which I think poetry really is and can be. And it's not always meant, everything doesn't have to be productive, but there's something about poetry which is of the people to me. It's short, we can take it in, and we can use it and utilize it in ways that are really, really helpful. So we are going to walk through this poem now. It's a bit longer than some of the other poems that we have explored. So I want to invite you, as you're listening, to take this in whatever way you wish. Sometimes when I'm being read something, I like to close my eyes and imagine there's beautiful imagery in this poem. So you might like close your eyes and see, you might lay down, you might look out your window and look at the natural world as you're hearing this. Or you can just look straight to the video. To each her own. So I just want to say thank you to David Paul Kirkpatrick, who transcribed this from the audio. The Painted Face of God. I have often thought in my life how hard it will be to leave this earth. And once, when I was so ill and lay dying and crying, thinking how horrible to leave the people I so loved, as though I would never see them ever again. Those most precious to me, to never hold them and smell them and hear them. And especially also to leave the mysterium of this earth, our beloved yellow sun, our brilliant blue sky, our mother of pearl shining moon, our green grasses, our purple heather, our black-winged raptors, our silver wolves, our colored songbirds, all these of such beauty, a seeming nowhere else known in the entire universe. To leave this painted face of God that we lived mirrored upon, this painted face of God that teaches us through the seasons of flowers and pines on mountains and creatures and red hearts beating in flurries all over the world, in all that moves with purpose on earth. In all else, how can anyone believe that here on earth is not God? Right here on earth. How can we leave this magnificent, incandescent, radiant, beautiful, painted face of God on earth? And I wept and I grieved. How can we leave this beautiful God on holy earth so filled with gems and diamonds and gold and silver and all the elements of wonder? And I wept. But in time now, as many years have passed in my life, as I gather more years, I am able to see better now the far encampment in my own life. I am coming closer and closer now in the 7th decade of my life to all the time travel awaiting me and awaiting us all. I realize, yes, God is here on earth. We are with God here. So very, very yes. And that we travel one day from God here on earth to the star-wrapped God riding across the sky, that they are the same. That we may leave in this way or in that way, but we are only traveling from our precious painted God here on earth to our precious star-wrapped God of the cosmos. That we are not leaving, we are only traveling, leaving God to go to God. So it is for John. And so it will be for us one day. And thus, we are together on the journey now. Some a little ahead, some a little behind, but not apart, not ever. We are all traveling together. So it may be for you, and so it may be for me, and so may it be for all of us. Ride on, dear Anamkara, friend John. Ride on white. Adios. So we send our gratitude for Dr. Estés, for offering, for sharing her perspective. And I think to receive the blessing of the perspective, especially in these times where so much in these last couple of years, so much of the theme of our collective experience has to do with our relationship with death. And I know for many of us, the world over, for many different reasons and in many different ways, we have been confronted with what is our relationship to death, to the death of others, to our own death. And it's been a kind of initiation for humanity. I know I've learned an awful lot about what I believe in, what I'm not sure of, and what I don't believe, and have, without really asking for it, been shown a lot about the nature of life and death. So here, Dr. E just basically says, for a long time when I was younger, I used to grieve and weep that I should ever have to leave this amazing place, which she describes as the painted face of God. And now, as she's older and, she's standing there at the death of her beloved friend who died suddenly when he was young, in his early 50s, died suddenly. When someone dies suddenly and younger, there's something that happens there. That's a awakening of its own nature. And so here she stands on, this occasion to honor her dear soul friend. And she's clear at this point that whatever is the time travel she gets to do, and that John is perhaps doing, is just that he's leaving, that he's left this earth, this painted face of God, for the star-wrapped God of the cosmos. And she offers us this perspective that those we love we're just always traveling with, whether they're ahead of us or they're going to be behind us in terms of moving from the painted face of God to the star-wrapped God of the cosmos, that some will go ahead and some will go behind, but we're always together. And, this particular subject matter, what happens when we die, is an unanswerable question. So it's a blessing to hear Dr. E offer this blessing, offer this poem, offer this art, offer this illustration as she sees it from her older, wiser space that she's in. It's just a gift, it's a treasure. And I wanted to offer it to the space, to you to consider. So we'll link below this video this poem that you can dance with and read aloud and pull apart for all of its symbols, and have this beautiful opportunity to look through the eyes of another, and particularly someone as wise and mystical as Dr. E is. So, yay! This poem will be the centering poem for many of our Wild Woman Project circles happening all over the world. We always gather in circle at new moon time. So it's a place, any circle, whether it's in person or online, is a place where you can expect that there's always going to be a theme. There's always going to be, in this case, many of them will be themed around this poem. There's going to be a meditation. There's going to be a time for share. There's going to be intention setting ritual and all kinds of fun stuff. And it's a way, every time we circle up, there's something really powerful that happens there. Human beings have been circling for a very, very, very long time. So to be in that shape and to be with others and explore together is one that is very soul nourishing. And we often walk away with a lot of insights. So If you'd like to check out one of our circles with our trained facilitators, you can find a list of circles below this video. So find a circle near you. There will also be a list of circles that are happening online, which many are. Yeah, so check those out if you wish. And a couple of more announcements before we close out. I want to let you know that things are happening, things are coming. So we have coming up in April our Befriending Your Moon Cycle 4-week women's circle series. And this is an exploration. It's 4 Mondays in a row, gathering in circle online from anywhere, really focusing on menstruation and menstruation as one of nature's many portals to deeper understanding. I actually took this course. It's facilitated by the great Nina Paris, who's a very, very gifted facilitator. I took it last time and it was so beautiful and so nourishing. And, to be in space with other women, to have the space to think about our inner cycles in a way that's less of a curse and more of a teacher and a blessing is pretty revolutionary. So if you'd like to check that out, the registration for that is actually opening on March 3rd. That's the day after new moon. So you can find a link, Befriending Your Moon Cycle, below this video. Sign up for email updates and we will email you the moment registration opens. Space is limited for this. So early registration is recommended. That's a tongue twister. And also coming up this spring, but a little bit later, is Wild Woman Project Circle Leader Training. So I'm really excited about this one. I've been leading this training for a decade. And now I have amazing mentors that facilitate also and help. And we are adding a lot of new material this time. That's why I'm really excited. So it's going to be like the most up-to-date training that we've done so far. You can join it online from anywhere. We have hundreds of graduates all over the world. You can find a link below this video, and registration will be opening up this moon cycle. So go to the link, Circle Leader Training link, and put in your email address when you get to that page, and we will email you like more details as they come out, scholarship opportunities, when registration opens, and a little bit more about the interior of the program. It's 7 weeks, and it's our signature like foundational program. So if any of this stuff is calling to you, Wild Woman Archetype, Moon Cycle, Holding Sacred Circle for Women, highly recommend you check it out. And if you want, I would love to get to know you in the process. So that's coming this moon cycle. And then finally, we will have a Wild Woman School session. So this is just like one night. It's an hour and a half, again, online from anywhere. Our subject, and I teach this one, is how to gather guidance from nature. So it's going to be all about building and strengthening our relationship to the natural world, which is one of the most essential tools for a wild woman. That is all I'll say. So Befriending Your Moon Cycle, Circle Leader Training, and Wild Woman School. Take your pick. I hope that you join us for one of them. And so I just want to thank again Dr. Estés for this beautiful blessing poem. I want to thank her for her perspective. I want to invite us all to carry her perspective this moon cycle. I think it's fun, especially when you're dealing in the realm of unanswerable questions, such as what happens after we die, to try on perspectives for a while. What if she's right? That this world is the painted face of God, and that everything in it is the painted face of God. And you might prefer the word universe, consciousness, one. Everybody has their language. This is her language, so I honor it. It's not a word I would use, but it's what she used. And Maybe when I'm in my 70s, I'll use it. So what if this is the painted face of God? What if every person we meet, every bird we see, every tree we encounter is God? And what if when we die, we travel to God, leaving God for God, like she says, one God, to the star wrapped God of the cosmos? What if everyone that is, and all the people that we love, that we're traveling together, this sort of like cosmic pack? And some of us are ahead at the star wrapped God of the cosmos sphere, and some of us are back here, and that we're never actually apart. What if? So thank you, Dr. E. Thank you to you for taking the time to listen to this new moon poem and blessing. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How did this poem land for you? How does looking through Dr. E's eyes feel? What do you see? What does it teach you? So I can't wait to read those, whatever you'd like to share in the comments. Happy new moon!